welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. I'm Sananda Jayaseelan. On the show tonight, I'm in conversation with two women leaders, icons in their own right, speaking to us on a whole host of things, including their encouragement for women entrepreneurs like the ones who are watching the show tonight, and also what their professional and personal journeys have been like. First up on the show, I'm in conversation with Arundhati Bhattacharya. Also speaking with us tonight is Soumya Rajan of Waterfield Advisors. Arundhati Bhattacharya joining us here live on the show, ma'am. So good having you here. You, of course, need no introduction to any of our viewers. You are an icon and hugely inspirational in terms of your personal and your professional journey. I want to start by talking about the fact that, SBI and Salesforce, where you're now associated with, are two very completely different brands, are in two completely different industries and spaces. What has that journey been like for you? And, that transition, what has that been like?
Well, this is a question that gets asked to me a lot as to how the transition between a bank and IT industry is. And actually speaking, I continue to say that, both of them are basically service industries. One is selling financial products, the other is selling IT products. But at the end of the day, it's managing human beings who are actually, the basis of both of these businesses. And the center of the business for both of these industries is the customer. So if you are serving the same people and if you are doing it in the same manner that you were doing, either in the bank or in the IT industry, so to a very great extent, there is a lot that is similar in both the industries. Of course, the products that they sell are entirely different. But other than that, I don't think, it's such a very wide difference. And whatever difference there is, it's actually been a great learning journey. It's been good for me in the sense that I've learned a lot about how things are done differently. I've been now on both sides of the table because at one point of time I was a customer for IT. Now I'm a vendor of IT. So to that extent, it's given me a holistic view of a sector which I believe is very important and central to the survival of all businesses. And therefore, it's really rounded out my education, I would say. And therefore, I really and truly enjoy it.
I would love to get your views on the SMB space because you focus at Salesforce a lot on the SMB market. We're a show that targets, of course, the small business owner and leader. So just your views on that.
So basically, the big thing about Salesforce is that we innovated on what is called the cloud platform, and also we are a software as a service provider. Now, for small industries, in order to set up their IT systems, they don't have any sunk cost. So if you are actually using the cloud and using us as a service provider, you don't have any capital expense. And for a small business, as you know, capital is the most precious thing that they need in order to expand, in order to put out more products and things like that. On the other hand, for IT systems, which is absolutely required in order to be, really good in their business, they can merely use us as a service, just as they can use other cloud software as a service vendors. So I think, for SMEs, we are the perfect answer where IT needs are concerned. And in fact, this is something that actually democratizes the use of IT. It reduces the entry barrier into becoming a digital first company, and therefore is actually very good for the SMEs.
You've seen the workplace evolve over the last 40 years, and my question to you really is to try and get your sense on how things have changed, if they have, for women in the workforce.
So I think there is far more awareness about women employees in the workspace today. For instance, in a company like ours, we also give paternity leave because we believe that, raising a child is not only the mother's job, it's also the father's job. The amount of awareness that has been now created in respect of how we should ensure equality in the workplace We have, for instance, a gender pay parity audit every single year to ensure that men and women who are working in the same position and giving the same outputs, that they are not discriminated in respect of pay. Now, these were not things that were there 40 years before, far from it. But today, I think the basic difference is that there is far more awareness about the status of women, the need to promote an equal workplace, the need to have diversity in the workplace. All of these things, I think, are now becoming boardroom agendas. So I think, we have come a long way. I'm not saying we have crossed the entire distance and we are at our goal, but I definitely feel that we have traversed a pretty long distance.
Whether you're making money as a career woman or not, making and managing, or managing money at least, is something which is very important for women. And my question to you is, why do you feel more women are not taking active roles when it comes to managing and handling the finances?
So, it's the same reason why women feel that they are not good in maths. These are, age-old perceptions about a left brain, right brain kind of thing, that women are better suited to the arts and culture and to the finer aspects of life, and they are not so, rationally minded. However, because of the general perception, it takes time for a substantial number of women to actually move in a way that, the perceptions start changing. Today, for instance, I am told that 45% of the women who are graduating schools are actually opting for STEM education. This percentage was far less earlier. So now that we have got to 45%, I'm sure, a time will come shortly when we will cross the 50% and we will see more and more women, or equivalent number of women, going into the finer arts as we will see them going into STEM education.
You're a firm believer in technology, in solving a whole host of issues, including when it comes to the world of finance. And what technologies perhaps could you talk to us about in this area that you think will be hugely beneficial?
So, all technology is beneficial. It's like nuclear power. You can make nuclear power work for you, you can make it, beneficial for mankind, and you can obviously, run riot with it as well. Technology is similar. Technology, if used in the right way, will always be beneficial. It doesn't matter what kind of technology you use. But again, technology in the wrong hands and leveraged in the wrong way can also have pretty devastating results. So we have to be very careful about the way, we use technology, the way we enable people and empower people to understand that there are wrong uses that can be made of the same thing, which on the one hand is helping them. So it's a question, it's a journey. It's not something that can be done in a day's time. In Salesforce, for instance, we have a separate office for the ethical use of AI, for instance, because we know that AI can be used for the wrong reasons. AI can have biases of its own, which can reflect in the results, and therefore it's very important to keep track of what we are doing to ensure that these biases don't creep in. So to that extent, I would say that technology is something that is definitely helpful for humanity. It's very important for countries like us, where the numbers are huge. We have 600,000 villages. There's no way that we can solve these through the brick and mortar approach. We have to use the digital approach for solving the issues that all of these villages face. But at the same time, we need to remember that technology can be misused. And so there has to be a healthy balance, a healthy mistrust of what is being shown to us or being given to us, so that we know that we test everything before we accept it as the truth.
Could you talk to us about any future plans that you have at Salesforce that you can divulge to us?
So, in my current role in Salesforce, my major job is to create that One India story. We had a number of teams over here. Most of them report to people that are outside the country, because the vertical heads sit all across the world. And it was very difficult to get the people together to create what we call a one Salesforce culture. So that is my main job over here. The other job is to, showcase to the organization the depth of talent that there is in this country, our innovative powers, our ability to, rise to the occasion whenever it so demands. So those are the things that I want to bring to the fore and make it very clear that India really is a talent basket for the entire world.
I would love to get your thoughts and ideas on that big idea for New India that you feel will really change India's position on the global map.
So basically, I think there is one word that solves most of the world's problems, and that is education. So we need really and truly to ensure that we are imparting quality education right down the line. There has to be democratization of education. There has to be a lot of skill development, because unless we are skilled, we will not be able to do the things that we can do. And there are so many people who don't have the opportunities for this education and for skilling. We need to democratize this. We need to ensure that everybody who needs education, who needs a skill, has the opportunity to get it, because that's the way we really can build a new India.
Help us understand a little more on Ladies Who Lead as a platform. What can you tell us?
On the platform Ladies Who Lead, the only thing that I want to say is that it is important for us to empower ourselves first. And once we have empowered ourselves, once we know what is holding us back and we learn to fight against it, to enable ourselves against it, we then need to create consciousness in the ecosystem so that the ecosystem also becomes helpful for women to go get ahead.
Arundhati Bhattacharya, thank you so much for your time here on the show. Pleasure's always speaking with you and hugely inspirational for all of us here at the Leaders of Tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to take a quick commercial break. At this point, on the other side, Soumya Rajan of Waterfield Advisors joining us. That's in just a moment. Do stay tuned. Welcome back with us here on IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow, Season 11. Soumya Rajan of Waterfield Advisors joining us also on the sidelines of Ladies Who Leads Conclave in Mumbai. Soumya, thanks for your time. Help us understand a little more about LWL as a platform. What can you tell us?
So I'm delighted that at Waterfield we have a partnership with Ladies Who Lead, because one of the important parts of women empowerment is really around how we can have a networking effect in order to improve career prospects for women. The platform Ladies Who Lead allows for networks to be created between women professionals and women entrepreneurs, which I think is very necessary as we are to build the ecosystem for women to feel more inclusive in their financial empowerment.
Your business model is very unique and you've identified a niche that you are associated with. Help us understand a little more on the work that Waterfield Advisors does.
So I started and founded Waterfield in 2011 after 17 years in a corporate sector job, which was in banking, which was with ANZ Grinleys, which was taken over then by Standard Chartered. I was heading the private bank of Standard Chartered between 2008 and 2010 when I suddenly realized that there was a fairly large gap in the market in terms of the way in which family businesses were advised on their wealth. Everything in wealth management was distributor-led, it was also transaction-specific, and people really didn't have a chance to look at the larger issues of wealth management around succession, around philanthropy, around how they would leave their wealth to subsequent generations. And I felt that it was important to have a company which did not have a conflict of interest in the way in which wealth was advised. It was with that purpose that I actually started Waterfield at the age of 40. I think I was actually having even a midlife crisis in terms of trying to figure out what is it that I wanted to do that could actually have an impact which was much larger than just having a corporate job. And that's how really Waterfield started.
What are some of the emerging trends in fintech that you could possibly speak with us about?
So it's interesting that I think that financial services is always one of those first areas where you start and begin to see innovation. So whether it was, the scales that were made when we were measuring gold, or it was the Reuters telegram, or it was really in terms of newer ways in which we're looking at businesses, financial services is always the leader, including areas like blockchain and crypto and digital assets. What's interesting to see is what are the emerging trends in terms of financial services. What I see is that as we look at the fintech space, two major trends are going to define the future. One is around connectivity and the other is around computing. When you look at connectivity, look at India. We are a 1.4 billion population. We have 650 mobile phone users. We've got 38% of these users are smartphone users, and we have a 58% penetration in terms of the internet access. What is this doing? This is actually changing the way in which we conduct our business. In the past, many of you would remember that if you had to open an account in a bank, you would go to the bank, you would fill out a form, the form would get filled, you would have somebody do the KYC, you would have a customer ledger which was got created, and you will have a call center which will take care of all your servicing needs. What connectivity is doing is that it is atomizing these processes. So fintech companies are now solving for different processes within the larger process that a bank would take care of. So what's going to be interesting is that this atomization which is created, which fintechs are now solving. So one is in terms of connectivity. The second, which I talked about, is around computing. When we talk about computing, we now realize that a lot of the data is now managed on cloud. So whether you're looking at information which is stored about a client, that is sitting on the cloud. Or if you were to look at processes in terms of this new concept of AI and ML, which all of us are now talking about, AI is transforming the way in which we look at our business. Whether we're looking at loan origination, whether we're looking at robo-advisory, whether we're looking at suspicious accounts and suspicious activities, each of these means that we're changing the way in which fintech is going to impact us. So these two big trends are going to define the future of financial services and fintech.
What are some of the sectors in this current decade or in the next few years that you think will do well, Soumya?
My sense is that in the current decade, we're going to see a lot of focus on shareholder value, which is created through sustainability, and really around concepts around green, which is something that I think is going to be very defining for India. Let me give you an example here. So if we were to look at, let's say, India has said that by 2030, we will reduce our carbon emissions to the extent of 45% as compared to a 2005 baseline. We've also said that 50% of our energy use will come through non-fossil fuel based energy sources. What does this mean? This really means that we're going to see a proliferation in terms of manufacturing which is related to the green side. If you notice what are the sectors that PLI is actually targeting, 70% of these are actually in renewables. So for me, what is going to look interesting in the next decade is where PLI comes in terms of what it is contributing in terms of our manufacturing, and how green is going to sit in this, because it's going to work in tandem. So the sectors that I would look out for going forward is really around green, is really around mobility, is around 5G. These are all the spaces that I believe are going to be the future, because it sits fundamentally with where India directionally is heading.
From handling the finances of top-notch clients to being recognized as a woman of wealth, what has your journey been like, Soumya?
So the journey has been fascinating for me in terms of first being a corporate professional and thereafter becoming an entrepreneur. It was also difficult because all journeys of entrepreneurship is always fraught with the fact that you may not succeed. So when you start out, you never know whether the venture that you're starting is really going to be something which is going to take off. That's a huge risk. If you want to build something that you believe will have a long-term sustainability, you have to put in the hard yards for it. And you have to be very self-aware, but more importantly, you have to have self-belief that what you're doing is the right thing. Perseverance is actually the name of the game. But it's a journey which I would say any day I would take, because if you can build something which you believe can make a difference to your community, to your society, then it would have been a risk worth taking.
All right, Soumya, thank you so much for your time. Out of time on tonight's conversations. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our details on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.